Sir, welcome, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Shall we start, sir?
Sure, sure.
Good morning and greetings to one and all. Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Cell and in association with IPR Cell of SRCAS welcomes you all for the 5-day faculty development program titled Creating Holistic and Innovative Startup Ecosystem in Higher Education Institution with IPR Facility. Today, day 2, session 1, we have Mr. Karmjitsinh Bihola from Innodesk Designovation Services, Gujarat. He is here to deliver his address on the topic design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. Yesterday, sir, your session was very thought provoking. We are eagerly waiting for your today's session. So, on behalf of the entire SRCAS faculty community, I welcome you, sir. And
you.
I also welcome the entire participants. Hope his expertise knowledge will give us a deep learning in design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. Sir, now the session is yours.
Sure. So, thank you very much, Dr. Santhana Krishnanji, for again for arranging today's session and welcoming all. Good morning to everyone. I hope you all are doing great and keeping yourself healthy. So, yesterday we discussed about a couple of aspects and development of innovation and startup ecosystem, and we talked about various efforts or various processes to be included into our curriculum or our activities that we are doing to develop this healthy innovation and startup ecosystem. And we also talked about that we can develop this kind of ecosystem if we are doing it in a structured manner, if we are following some structured methodology. So today we're going to discuss about that structured methodology called design thinking, and which is where today we discuss various aspects on design thinking. Let me share my screen first, all of you. Okay, so I hope the screen is visible and my presentation is there. Or yeah, so today we are going to discuss various aspects on design thinking, and again I would like to welcome your thoughts, welcome your interactive questions in between or at the end of the session. So kindly put your questions or thoughts into the chat box, so at the end we can also discuss on various aspects of including or integrating design thinking in our curriculum. So again, thank you very much for inviting me here, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, and the Innovation Centers IPR Cell and IIC Cell. Today, we are going to talk about this strategic approach to innovation and creating a startup. As yesterday, I discussed that design thinking is one of the approach to reach to the innovation and creating a better startup ideas that institutions, corporates, businesses, startups, government organizations all are using nowadays, right? So design thinking is becoming one of the need of an hour topic, as we can say. And if you see every FDP and every kind of sessions or every kind of workshops include design thinking as a topic, as a central theme, right? And which is where today we are going to discuss how design thinking is important, why it is important. We have discussed a couple of things regarding why innovation and why this structured methodology is important. So design thinking is a approach, is a strategic approach to reach to the innovation, is a process, or you can say methodology to going towards innovation. Innovation is the final outcome, expected outcome out of that process, but the design thinking is that structured process, structured approach. And in that matter, design thinking is not 1 + 1 = 2 kind of formula. It is not universal principle that you apply for each and every kind of project, each and every kind of problem, and each and every kind of innovation to be to be received or to be acquired or developed. Design thinking is a contextual approach, right? And in that matter, we always need to look at the problems, look at the scenarios or whatever challenges that we are facing in the context, in the real context. We need to understand the perspective of the people through design thinking approach, through design thinking process, and apply contextual tools and technique uh, to reach to the innovation. So design thinking is a vehicle, is a process to reach to the innovation. It is not 1 + 1 is equal to 2 kind of formula. And by understanding design thinking and this kind of strategic approach for innovation and startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, we are again keeping or putting our one step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, and which is the mission or goal of our country nowadays. So let's start, get going, and no need to mention that this is academic discussion training purpose only. So I'll again talk about this topic or design thinking in three aspects. Why design thinking, why we are here, why we are learning it, what is it, and how we can implement or how we can integrate design thinking to solve the problems. So I'll show you some of the examples as well as case studies at the end of the session, how we can implement it into solving the problems. Also, I would like to recommend again to all of the teachers and participants over here, whenever you teach your students, kindly recommend them these three aspects to learn any subject. So whatever subject, whatever theory they are learning, kindly ask them to learn through this why, what, and how, which is learning, unlearning, and relearning. So whatever they are learning, whatever subject, let's say programming or Java or anything, I mean in your arts, commerce, whatever statistics they are learning, right? So why they are learning, what is the objective, what is the goal behind it, what is the basic fundamental principle behind that subject, why they are learning, what is it, the root cause or the root of that subject, the basic and fundamentals of what is it in real sense. So they learn through the fundamentals, and how they can apply that learning into practical scenarios and practical problems that they are facing, how they can solve those problems using the subject knowledge, right, or subject matter. And while applying, while unlearning their part, right, they can relearn the subject from the experimentation, from the failure, whatever they are applying to practical scenario. If they fail, if they experiment something, right, they can relearn the subject in a better way. So why, what, and how, learn, unlearn, and relearning, agar if they apply this methodology, they can learn any kind of subject forever. They don't need to mug up, they don't need to उनको रट्टा मारने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, right? So that is where we always recommend students to learn from learn any kind of subject with this three questions or three methodologies: learning, unlearning, and relearning aspect. So let's talk about design thinking. When we ask these three questions or try to find out these three questions using design thinking process, tools, and technique, we will always get the experience innovation. Now I'll talk about this experience innovation in a later in the slides. So we have already discussed that why design thinking. When yesterday we talked about the innovation ecosystem, we discussed that three reasons why design thinking, and in that matter innovation is important, because world needs it. World, if we see at the macro perspective, the entire world needs it, because we are living in this VUCA world where we are facing many uncertain and complex problems and challenges, and all these problems, 90% of the problems are created by human or human intervention. And if we want to solve this human problem, we need to understand human aspects, needs, aspirations. We need to understand how they are tackling to the problem, and why this problem is being is important to be solved for any kind of a particular area. And that is where this human centered approach called design thinking, the non-linear and iterative process of design thinking, will help you to solve the complex problems. Then if we further narrow it down at the industry level, industry requires innovation as well as need to innovate, and which is where also design thinking is very much important. to develop the skill sets for the individual. So when we further narrow it down to individual level, you and me requires to innovate as well as innovation. And for innovation, we require this process called design thinking, right? And which is where we also discuss 21st century skill sets, which all 21st century skill sets given by World Economic Forum, 16 skill sets can be developed using this innovation process called design thinking, when we apply it for practical scenario, when we apply it for solving any real life problem, right? Also, as we discussed, world is changing very fast. The human needs are also very changing very fast. I mean, human needs are also changing very fast, right? And which is where today businesses and startups are not only creating the products with functional or aesthetic requirement keeping in mind, but they also need to create the product or services keeping experiential innovation, experiential aspect in mind, right? So today products and services are not only created keeping functional, aesthetic, quality aspects into the mind, but we also need to create the product and services keeping experiential innovation, experience that your client, your user, or your customer would like to get from your solution, right? So if you see these two chair or the chairs, the range of chairs which are available into the market, you will select or you will buy particular chair because the experience that this chair will provide to you, right? Other, otherwise, in the market, in the competitive market, if there are 10 competitors, all 10 competitors will try to provide great quality product at the cheapest, lowest and cheapest price as possible, as cheapest, and better quality and everything. So this becomes the norm. Better quality or highest quality and lowest price are becoming the norms for being there into the competition. But if you want to be the leader into the innovation, leader into the market, then you need to provide the experience that other competitors are not providing. And that experience innovation is nothing but your value proposition or unique selling proposition. So which is where we have moved from design, just simply designing something, to design thinking, and we have moved from aesthetic functional requirements to experiential requirement, experiential innovation, business model innovation, right? So which is where design thinking is very much important. Also, design thinking helps you or your students into broader way, because after the after the graduation, students will either go for, there is two options only, right? After graduation, there is only two options. Either they go for entrepreneurship and they start their own startup, their own business, or join their family business, but they become the entrepreneur, businessman, or they will go and join any company as an employee and become the employee, right? If they become employee and if they try to become intrapreneur, so intrapreneur is the person who is working under any company as an employee, but who has the mindset, attitude, and skills like entrepreneur, like he's innovative, he's ambitious, he's trying to solve the problems, he's trying to understand the client's requirement and coming up with the innovative ideas, right? Then the employee will call as an intrapreneur. So right now, companies and businesses are hiring the intrapreneurs, not only the employee. They doesn't want 9 to 5 job people, right? Those who are just coming to their offices 9 to 5 and take the salary at the end of the month, right? They don't want such kind of employees, just, right? They want an intrapreneur who can understand the requirements of their industry, requirements of their client, and understand the pain points or problems of the client or user or customer, and come up with the innovative idea, come up with the different solutions every time, right? Which is where entrepreneurship is very much important, or becoming entrepreneur is very much important. So design thinking will help you in this two broader way. It will help you in your entrepreneurial journey, as well as it develop the 21st century skills, which will be helpful to you and your students into the 21st century industrial requirement, right? So this is important, and that is where design thinking will help us in this two broader way. Also, this innovation ladder talks about, as we discussed yesterday, that companies and industries who are considering design and uh, innovation as their key strategic element, they are at the top of the innovation ladder, and which is where our students who want to be placed under such kind of companies, such kind of innovation company, or leader into the market, they need to understand design thinking and innovation as a strategy. So 81% of the companies say that they are open to design thinking mindset when it comes to corporate strategy, and 71% of the trained employees says that design thinking has improved their working culture, collaboration, co-creation, iterative nature when it comes to the design, product design and development, right? So which is where design thinking is globally accepted and practiced approach among the global companies like this, MNCs as well as MNCs from India, like this. And you can find the case studies for each and every company, and there are many of the companies and startup who are using design thinking nowadays as a key strategic approach for the innovation. So as we discussed and understood that innovation is not a eureka moment, it is not a miracle, it is structured and thoughtful process. And innovation and developing innovation culture, innovation environment, innovation ecosystem requires time, resources, money, effort, and so many other things, right? It is not overnight thing, and that process is called as design thinking. So we understood and we learned design thinking as a structured and thoughtful process to reach to the innovation. Innovation is expected outcome for any kind of startup, for any kind of entrepreneurial venture. So now let's talk about what is design. Give you the brief. Now let us understand what is design thinking and the designer's thinking, right? How designer think to bring the innovations, to bring any design, to bring any idea into the fruition or into the commercial market, right? So how designers think, how they work, what are the tools and technique, what are the process they use, right? Is all about understanding design thinking. So when we talk about design thinking, how it differs from traditional business thinking, right? So in business thinking, in traditional thinking, what we do, what managers do normally is when they face the problems or problem, they analyze that problem using the past data, facts and figures, right? So जो पुराना data है उससे वो उसको analyze करते हैं. They provide logic, right? So using their logic, they analyze the problem and they come up with one or two solutions only, right? So they analyze the problem based on the past data, facts and figures. They use the logic and come up with the one or two solutions. So they directly jump onto the solutions mainly. But whereas in design thinking, when we face any problems, right, what we do is we go little bit back into the problem space. We try to understand the needs of the people, pain points, perspective of the people. We try to find out the root cause of that problem, then come back, refine or redefine that problem or challenge, and come up with the many ideas, many solutions, probable solutions using ideation steps or ideation tools and technique, right? And from those many solutions, we further refine into the final concept or final solution. So this is how it differs from traditional business thinking and design thinking. Here we are not directly jumping onto the solution. Here we are first understand problems with its root causes and then come up with the solution which solves that root cause and pain points of the people, right? So first, in design thinking, which is a problem solving methodology, there is a two main uh, steps or stages. First is problem identification and then problem solution, right? We are not directly jumping onto the solution, unlike into the business thinking or traditional thinking, right? So in design thinking, we first understand the root cause and pain points of the people, understand the perspective of the people or user and customer, and then come back, refine the or redefine the challenge, and then coming up with the multiple solutions to converge them into or refine them into the final concept or solution. So this is the difference between business and design thinking. Now why this design thinking is also important? It is because uh, as a traditional thinker, as an analytical thinker, and 80-90% of the world's population is an analytical thinker. They think like using logic. and we all are mostly becoming the analytical thinker or logical thinker, and it is because of our traditional education system, and which where our approach to find solutions for any given problem is based on mainly three things, right? Either our expertise or experience, either our judgment or interpretation to assumptions, and copying others, right? So mainly we use these three kind of approaches to solve any kind of problem, where we use our expertise, experience, and knowledge, our judgment, interpretation, and assumptions, or we copy others, right? And which is where we normally come up with the a common and general solutions, not a out of box solutions or creative solutions, innovative solution. So is there any systematic approach? So yes, this design thinking is one of the ultimate and systematic approach to solve the complex problem. So what is design thinking? Design thinking is a mindset of creative process. It is a mindset, it is an approach, it is a process, right? Creative process for solving the complex problem. It is divergent conversion process, so it is continuously a divergent conversion analysis synthesis process. I'll talk about later on this part. Design thinking depends on, or it focuses on the user's emotional need, users unmet need, users hidden need, right? Hidden aspirations. So we need to understand, we need to try to find out the perspective of the user, their emotional need, their hidden needs, what are the aspirations behind their whatever they are doing, right? So we need to understand that user's emotional need. It is a multidisciplinary approach. So for any design thinking project, or in that matter any project, any research project, any startup idea, you would require the multidisciplinary team. And that is where we also yesterday talked about that if you are solving any problem, if you are trying to come up with any idea, any startup venture, any startup idea you are working on, right? You would require the multidisciplinary team. If you are from English department, if you are from arts, if you are from commerce, if you are from law, if you are from medical science, right? You will require different domain people, different discipline people, to bring that multidisciplinary knowledge, to bring that multidisciplinary skills to your problem or to your solution. So it is required for successful startup idea to have the multidisciplinary team. Seeing problem as an opportunity. So in design thinking, in innovation, in that matter, we always see, in entrepreneurship, in that matter, we always see problems as opportunity. We don't see problem as a problem, and which is the biggest asset or traits of a character of an entrepreneur or innovator, that wherever they see the problem, they see the opportunity to convert that problem into market need or market opportunity. So during this pandemic situation, many of the people have seen, 90% of the people of the world have seen this pandemic, this corona virus, as a problematic situation. But there are some 5% people whom we call as an innovator, entrepreneur, from the corporate, from the business world, startup world, or from the government and academia, who have worked on those problems and convert that problem into opportunity and came up with the many solutions, right? During this pandemic situation, the prototype tested with the user. If we fail, we iterate further, right? So it is iterative process. Design thinking is an iterative process. It can be applied to almost any field. Design thinking is not only for engineers, it is not only for a particular industry or particular field, particular domain. It can be applied to each and every field, almost any field. Wherever you find the problem, wherever you find the application of design thinking, as you understand, and you will get the innovative idea. So many of the, after many of our FDP, faculty development program of 4 days, faculty members have reported that uh, we have solved our family problem using design thinking, because design thinking is a human centered approach. It depends, or it calls for a deep understanding, as you can see on the third line, right? It depends on the user's emotional need. So if you can understand your family members emotional need, their perspective, their pain point, their problem, right, the problem will be solved. So many of the faculty members have reported that we have solved our family problem using design thinking, because design thinking is empathy based. We first stage is the empathize with the user, right? So here user will be the family member. You understand their problem, pain point, and problem will be solved. So it can be applied to almost any field. And design thinking is a contextual approach. It is not template based, which means that if you understand, if you learn design thinking in 5 days FTP or through one online course, and if people talked, expert talked about design thinking is a 5-step process, which is a Stanford process, and these are a couple of tools and technique for each and every step. And if you apply that tools and technique and that process for every kind of problem, right, it will be like template based. So it is not template based, it is a contextual approach. You need to understand, if you are solving the problems of farmer, right, farmers of the, let's say, Tamil Nadu, you need to contextualize your solution for Maharashtra farmer, for Punjab farmer, for Gujarat farmer, for Assamese farmer, right? Every farmer has their contextual need and contextual problem. So you can't solve the problems, based on the template that you learned from the design thinking workshop or course, right? It is a contextual, and which is where we always say that design thinking is a have the ocean of the material, and the tools and techniques are like having like a full of ocean. So which is where you need to find out the contextual tools and technique to apply for particular problem and situation, right? So there are many tools and techniques available for each and every stage of the design thinking. So it is a contextual. So if we talk about the definition of the design thinking, so Mr. Tim Brown, President CEO of IDEO company. IDEO is one of the most innovative firm right now into the world, and they develop many of the solutions of the world, starting from Apple mouse to Oral-B toothbrush to many of the products and services that we use nowadays, in our daily life. So, but what they are saying about design thinking is, and how they believe design thinking and how they describe themselves is, they say that we are not expert of any product or service. We are not expert for particular product and service. So we are not expert of making computers or mobile phone. We are experts in the design thinking process. By saying that, they say that we are the expert of the innovation process, where you give us any kind of problem, we apply this strategic approach of innovation called design thinking and come up with the innovative idea, right? And which is what we need to also develop or inculcate in our innovation ecosystem, where our students will become the expert for the process, right? Not only expert for any particular technology or product or service, but they become the expert for the process, so that in any case or in any for the any problem, they can apply this process and come up with the innovative idea, right? So that is where we say that we need to focus more on creating the innovators, not on the innovation. So Tim Brown defines design thinking as a human-centered approach for the innovation. So it is first of all human-centric approach for the innovation, which integrate mainly three things: needs of the people, possibilities of the technology, and requirement for business success. So let us understand this definition with a clear picture, graphic representation. So uh, design thinking integrate these three aspects: all people's desirability, technological feasibility, and business viability. Whenever we are working on any idea, any project, any like startup idea, startup project, or any kind of academic or research project, first of all we need to understand that we need to integrate these three aspects. And initially, first of all, we need to find out people's desirability. Before you jump onto your solution or development of your solution, you first need to understand the people's desirability. Whether whatever solution I am developing, whether people will be desirable to buy or utilize that solution or not, whether my solution will solve their problems or not, whether it will be desirable by that market or that people, group of people, right? So initially we have to find out the people's desirability. Then feasible technology, how I can make this idea feasible and you know make viable into the market. And then business viability, how I can use the technology and other resources to make it viable, profitable, and revenue generation based model. So why, what, and how. Remember my first slide, right? Why I'm doing this project? Is there a people's desirability? What kind of technology resources is available or I can use to make it better, and how I can make it viable into the business and into the market. So why, what, and how, when you ask these three questions, when you try to find out these three things and integrate these three things using design thinking, process, tools, and technique, you will always get the experience innovation. Our goal as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, to reach to this experience innovation, not only functional innovation, not only process innovation, not only aesthetic and other kind of aspect. So it is required that to reach to that experience innovation, creating a value proposition or USP for your product or service, you need to integrate people's desirability, technological feasibility, and business viability. So for example, if I, as I mentioned yesterday, if I want to solve the farmer's problem using IoT based solution, which is the technological feasibility, right? IoT is a technology. So I can't go directly onto this part where, without understanding farmer's desirability or farmer's pain point and perspective, I can't develop IoT based solutions and make it a business viable, right? I first need to understand the farmer's desirability. Based on farmer's desirability, I would go on to check for the technological feasibility, whether it is feasible by the IoT, by the AI, or other kind of technology, right? And then after integrating people's desirability, technological feasibility, I would integrate the business viability, right? And that's how I'll get the experience innovation. Now, why this experience innovation is important? So as I mentioned earlier, businesses and startups not only developing products and services, keeping functional aesthetic requirements into the mind, but they also need to keep emotional, social, personal factors into the mind, give the experience innovation, right? I will only buy this mobile phone or any kind of like this laptop or headphone or this clothing if it provides the experience that I would like to get from that product or service, right? And which is why Apple can sell you a 1,30,000 phone or 1,50,000 phone, even if there are better technological phone, better quality phone may be available into the market. Samsung ka hai, Apple, Oppo, Vivo, or any kind of OnePlus phones are available, right? Out of 50,000, 60,000, still people are buying 1,50,000 phone from the Apple. It is because they are providing that experience innovation. When you unbox the Apple product, starting from unboxing the product to utilizing it, using it, you will be amazed. You will be like, feeling wow moment every time you use the Apple product. And which is why this Apple can sell and Apple becomes the 1 trillion economy nowadays, right? So they know how to create that experience innovation, right? So which is where company and businesses needs to integrate these three aspects to come up with the experience innovation to develop the or to generate the value proposition which is required into the market. Along with, so this is this is the design thinking definition. If you understand this slide, you will understand about design thinking, right? So this is the definition of design thinking, integrating these three aspects for experience innovation. Along with these three aspects, I have added two more, right? Because we are living in this VUCA world and we can't expect developing any kind of solution without sustainability and ethic into the mind. So we have added these two aspects furthermore with the design thinking definition, that along with the people's desirability, technological feasibility, and business viability. And I can't stop myself to talk about sustainability and ethic when we are talking to the academia, right? So whenever you teach to your students, and whenever you guide your students for any kind of product, any kind of project or startup idea, you always need to ask them to develop the product and services using sustainability and also keeping ethics in the mind. We can't expect our entrepreneurs or young generation to develop one product for solving one problem, right? And that product or service will create another 10 problem. We can't expect now in this time or in this era. The first second sorry. So in the video we have seen that neither fox is disabled nor crane is disabled, right? Everyone has their own special need, and we need to identify that special need. So whenever we face any problem or challenges, or want to solve any problem and challenges, we need to understand the people's perspective. We need to understand their identify and find out their special needs, their hidden needs, their aspirations. Now on your domain, on your problem space, there are many peoples, right? And their needs are different. So you need to identify that target audience, right? And that is where we target the audience and we target the market, right? Segment our customers. So we need to identify their special needs to come up with the innovative idea, and which is where the first stage of design thinking is about empathizing with the user, observation and empathizing with the user. So how this design thinking process look like, and what is the process, what is the mode, phases of the design thinking? uh, when you Google about design thinking definition and the process, right, models of design thinking, you can find out hundreds, thousands of the design thinking models, processes, right? And that is where many of the people, as I mentioned, out of the 4 5 days of FTP and attending one online course, people are saying that design thinking is a 5-step process. It is not 5-step process, right? Stanford has developed that 5-step process, and because 80-90% of the world's population using that Stanford process, people are understanding that design thinking is the 5-step process. It is not template based 5-step process, right? Design thinking, and that is where we have researched that there are models, there are design thinking processes available from 3-step to 19-step, and there are more than thousands models available. So design thinking is the intuitive, creative process, and in that matter, any kind of innovation, any kind of problem solving process is the intuitive and creative. You can develop your own process. So we have developed our own process called, we have divided into 6-step process, similar to Stanford. I have studied Stanford, MIT, Harvard model, uh, along with our own IITs and NID model, and a couple of more models from the corporate. And we have developed this process into 6 steps. So design thinking is not 5-step or 6-step process. It mainly has 2 steps: problem identification and problem solution. These 2 steps can be further divided into any multiple steps that you want to divide. So we starts with the observation, empathy, we define the problem statement, then we go for the ideation, product development, prototype, and test. So these are our 6-step process, right? As you can see, the arrows are bidirectional, which means that entire process is an iterative experimental process. You can, from wherever stage you are in, right? Whichever stage you are in, you can go back and look at the process again, you can look at the data again, right? Observation and empathy goes hand in hand, and many of the steps goes hand in hand. It is not that this is not step by step linear process. The entire design thinking is a non-linear iterative process. So it is not that always we start with the observation empathy. Many of the times, because design thinking is integrating people's desirability, technological feasibility, and business viability. Most of the time, what happened as a consultant, you have some idea or product is already there. You need to refine it, you need to make it, you need to come up with the incremental innovation. So you have the prototype or product development or ideas ready, but you need to go back to check whether people's desirability is proper or not, or there is a people's desirability for that particular product or not. And that is where this entire process is a non-linear. Many of these steps goes hand in hand simultaneously, right? And which is where the entire process becomes non-linear, iterative, and experimental. Entire process is a human centered, as I mentioned into the definition. Now I would like to focus here in these two parts, the problem zone and solution zone, right? So as I mentioned, design thinking and any innovation, any problem solving process has two step or two zone, problem zone and solution zone. First is the problem identification, and then move on to the solution zone. But what happened is, in traditional thinking, we directly jumping onto the solution zone. We mostly overlooked, or we mostly, neglect this problem zone, identifying the problem. So here start with the problem zone, identifying the real problem, right problem. If the problem is right, then and then you will get the right solution. If problem itself wrong, you will get the wrong solution, right? So that is where the first validation, first due diligence you have to do is into the problem zone. Observe your surroundings, observe your domain, identify the problems, empathize with your user and stakeholder, talk to them, right? And define your problem statement. Once you define, go back to your people and validate with them that whether this problem is right or wrong, right? So validation and verification of problem is required. Then once the problem is done, you go into the ideation zone, then slowly move on to the solution zone, right? Ideation is bridging the gap between problem and solution zone. So that is where, while the ideation, we are sometimes jumping onto the solution, sometimes going back into the problem zone, right? As you can see, problem and solution zone are overlapped. It is because our human mindset is such a way, it is working in a such a way that we can't stay there into the problem zone or solution zone for a while, right? We are jumping here and there. When you are searching for the problem, you always thought about the solution, right? But we try to make our mind, or we try to develop our mindset in a way that when we are working under problem zone, when we are trying to find out the problem, we do not think about the solution, right? And that is where but it is difficult. So that's where it is overlapped, and you go here and there, and that is why this entire process is iterative and non-linear. So all design thinking models into the world, you can go and check Stanford model, MIT model, IDEO model, or IBM, SAP. There are many. Google. Whoever is using design thinking, they talk about these two aspects, mainly two stage, problem stage and solution stage. Into that, they divide the steps into further into the problem stage and solution stage. But design thinking is a contextual, it is iterative, non-linear, creative, intuitive process, right? It is a contextual. This is also one of the design thinking model which is developed by UK Design Council in 2005. We call it as a double diamond process. And as I mentioned, design thinking is a divergent conversion process. So you can see divergent conversion modes here. So what we do is we start with the problem. So this is the trigger from where we start our project. So we start with the problem or challenge. Then we empathize with the user. We observe and empathize with the user, which we diverse, right? When we diverse, diverse mindset, we always find out the data, and we being non-judgmental here. We are not making any decision, not making any judgment here. We are just collecting the data. We are just observing and talking to the people and collecting the data. After you collect the data, you refine them, right? So you converse those data and try to define the problem statement. So you then converse, define the problem statement. From that final problem statement, again you diverse. This is the ideation part, right? So when you diverse for the idea, you come up with the many ideas. You generate many solutions, probable solution. Here also you are not uh, being judgmental. You are not making any decisions, and you are not thinking that whether this idea is the big or small, good or bad, crazy or simple idea. You are not thinking, and you are not making any decision. You are just creating or generating the ideas. Number of ideas, quantity is more important than quality at this ideation stage. After you generate many ideas, you again converse, refine, and combine those ideas by applying the various constraint boundary condition, and you create the concept, prototype, and test them, right? So this diversion conversion, right, diversion conversion analysis synthesis process goes on and on. And that is where you can see the two steps over here broadly: finding the right problem and finding the right solution. So first phase is finding the right problem, diversion conversion. Second phase, second diamond, is for finding the right solution, right? Again, diversion conversion. So this diversion conversion process goes on and on. And that is why we say that design thinking is a diversion conversion process. And which is where, when you diverse, it is mainly the creative thinking. It is mainly looking at the problem, or synthesizes the situation and problem. When you converse, which is critical thinking, you make the decisions, right? So design thinking integrate critical thinking as well as creative thinking, and that is why it gives us the better solutions or innovative solution. Yeah. So let's talk about the example. Here there is one case study of Airbnb. You might have heard about Airbnb. Oyo is our they see Airbnb model. So this design thinking transformed Airbnb from a failing startup to a $1 billion business. Now Airbnb is a unicorn startup. Before that, before 2014-15, I think they were going to bankrupt. But they used design thinking and transformed Airbnb from failing startup to $1 billion business. So I'll use this infographic to explain the case study in a one slide only. So there were two room partner, Joy and Brian, who lives in San Francisco, and they can't able to pay their rent. So they think to rent out their three air mattresses with serving the breakfast to the people. They make simple WordPress kind of blogging website, and started with airbedandbreakfast.com in 2007. Then when they announced this idea on their website, two men and one woman show up paying $80 each. After this guest left, they think that this could be the great idea, big idea. So they met their third friend called Nathan and invited him as a co-founder, and they built the proper website. They launched this idea into SXSW event, which is startup weekend's biggest event into the California now across the world. So they launched this idea, and during that they also got the booking. Then they announced it as a company and got the first funding. They got the $20,000 first funding from Y Combinator. But they were making only $200 a week for various months, for many months, and they were not growing properly. Now everything was there, idea was great, they were using technology and everything was there, but they were not growing. So they think that let's find out the root cause. when they were talking to their customers and couple of people, they realized that photos of the places were not pretty, because what they do is they ask the people, right, who want to rent their room or apartment. They ask the people, the owner of that property, to take the photograph and upload on their website. Now people are taking photographs from their mobile phone or simple camera, and they are not photographer, so they can't take proper picture, right? And they're just putting those raw photos on the website, airbedandbreakfast.com. And that is where whoever is coming to that website as a customer, they are not impressed by the photographs and places, and that's where they are not getting proper booking. After that, they hired a photographer. They went to New York, all listed properties in the New York, door to door, and they took the photographs and listed all the houses again, right? Only in a week after, they made a $400. From $200, they have made a $400 a week, and they started to grow. After that, they also rejected by famous VC Fred Wilson from the New York. uh, but then one drummer, right, Barry Manilow, rented his entire house, and they raised, after that they raised $600,000 sit round, and then they raised in 2010-11, they raised 7.2 million, then $112 million from many investors, right? And in 2014, they reached to the valuation of $10 billion. So they become the unicorn startup. So only the small insight of not you know keeping a better quality photographs, right, uh, help them when they empathize with their user, when they talk to the user. So here, they started with the technology, they started with the idea, but they failed because they didn't realize the people's desirability, how people will desirable to rent their places or rent their property, right? So which is where after the realization, they went on to empathizing with the user. They talked to the user, the customer, as well as the owner, and they completely revamp their website and revamp their idea. So this is how design thinking. The detailed case study you can find out on the internet, written into the articles, many of the articles, how Airbnb got funding using design thinking or went from bankruptcy to billion-dollar startup. So they have also used couple of design thinking aspects. Like, for them, people and places are prominent, right? So they have used people, places, love, which is empathy, and A for Airbnb. So this is their final logo right now, and they use all these elements to create the logo also. So this is how Airbnb got help from the design thinking, and nowadays Airbnb is one of the important startups who use Airbnb day in day out. So based on this case study and based on all the discussions of design thinking till now, we understood that what comes first when you want to start a startup or develop any product, whether it is a product, solution, or a customer need, right? So we understood that customer needs come first. We first need to identify the people's desirability. If I want to solve the farmer's problem, first I need to understand his need, his or her aspirations, needs, and hidden need or unmet unseen need, right? Then and then I can go and develop the product, IoT based, AI based, or whatever solution is there, right, in my mind, or whatever I can come up with. But after understanding the customer needs, only I will develop the product. So customer needs come first, and this is because this CB Inside research report says that the main reasons of startup failure is 42% startup fail because there is no market need. They have developed the better product, maybe technological, advanced product, innovative product, but there is no desirability. There is no people to buy that product into the market, and which is where they have failed to identify the people's desirability, right? So 42% startup fail because of this. Then there are other reasons also after that, but mainly the main reason is there is no market need and people have developed. So first of all, we need to find out the customer needs, market need, people's desirability to develop any product or solution. Then we integrate technological feasibility, then we come up with the business viability, and then we refine further product into a couple of iterations. So why we need to focus more on identifying the people's desirability or focus more on problem zone? It is because Albert Einstein sir also said that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes to understand the problem and then 5 minutes to solve it. Yeah. So when you identify the problem, when you spend 55 minutes to just understand the problem, you already understand the solution, right? Solution is already there many a times, we just need to identify it. But identifying a problem, right problem, is very much important. If the problem itself wrong, your solution will be wrong, right? And that is why this different approach to solving complex problem called design thinking is very much important. So what can you and what our students can possibly innovate? So many of the time, what we need to do is we just need to observe our surrounding. So many of the time we observe some kind of situations, right? This kind of situations into our surrounding, and we ignore this kind of uh, visuals. If you identify, if you see such kind of जुगाड़, आपके आसपास ऐसे कोई जुगाड़ आप देखते हैं, kindly think one step forward and kindly take this jugaad innovation level. So someone has come up with just simple mobile stand product. Now if you see desirability is there, feasible technology is there, and business viability is also there. You can create this product to mass manufacturing or 3D printing, injection molding process by 10 to 15 rupees, and you can sell it into the market 100 to 150 rupees, which is 10 times of profit, right? So whenever you see such kind of jugaad, take that jugaad to next level and try to solve it innovatively. Now if you see, and if our students can identify such problems, such jugaad, such temporary solutions into the market, into the surroundings, and they can come up with the innovative idea, they can start their own startup during the graduations only, right? Small problems need to be identified. A small girl from Bihar, a 9th grade student, Salini Kumari from Bihar, observed her father and grandfather walking or trying to climb the stairs using the fixed walker, and he was facing many difficulties to climb the stair because of that fixed walker. So she thought that, can't we make the first two legs adjustable and it would be easy? So this was the first idea that she submitted during the GYTI award. So GYTI is the Gandhian Young Technological Innovation Award, happening every year by the President House, and the entry starts from August, September. They invited entries from across the India, grassroots level innovation, grassroots level problem to be solved, and then they screened those entries by the 2-3 months and announced the award in end of January or February. And normally in February, March, they held this award for 2 weeks. So in President House, all the awardees are being called, all their innovations are being displayed for 2 weeks, and the 2-week festival of innovation, Foin, is going on at the President House. So this entry was awarded into 2014-15 or 15-16, and then with the help of the expert, they are developing this solution. Now looking at this entry and looking at this rough idea, when they prototyped it and used it, They realize that it is okay to use for the climbing the stairs, but when you want to go downstairs, it will be not helpful. So they have developed this particular product. Now between these two we are talking about innovation design, right? So between these two idea or these two prototype, there are many prototype happen, there are many iterations happen, right? N number of iterations happen. It is not that from this first prototype they have directly moved to the last or final prototype. There are many versions of the prototype happened, and iterations happen, right? But this kind of idea only happens when you feel the pain of the user, when you understand, when you realize that pain, and when you empathize with the user. So good design comes from the heart, not from the brain, right? So it is the people's desirability first, then the technological feasibility. But normally what happened is we start with our brain, with our expertise, technology, knowledge, information. We start with the brain, using our brain to develop the solution, and we forget about that pain. We forget about or neglecting the pain points of the user, which is very much important. So empathizing with the user is the first step in any design or innovation project. During the last lockdown, the first lockdown happened in March 2020. When the first lockdown happened, everything was stopped, right? And there were no laborers available. So those who are the bigger farmers, who have big farms, they are used to do the all activities, farming activities, using the labor, right? Labor work. They are not doing by themselves. So one of our students went, because of the lockdown, he also went to the village, his hometown, and he realized that when these crops have been, I mean, after the crops been done in the farm, they have to clean and sort it out, and put it into the shack for sending it to the market. So the activities was very tedious and tiresome, and all the family members have to involve, he himself involved into that activity for a week, and they were all tired and exhausted because they were not used to do that. His father has very big farms in acres of land, and that is where they always hire the laborers to do the activities. They are not used to do this kind of hard work. So after this, he, because of he was engineering student, he has developed this small mechanism, right? And looking at the effectiveness, looking at the effectiveness of the mechanism, the neighbor farmers, right, from the village has also ordered, and from the neighborhood villages also a couple of farmers ordered this mechanism. So then he realized that the market potential, and they approach us to to the university to get the funding. Now we are developing these solutions for marketable product. So all these are like, you can see a small project, small thing to be developed using your observation and just observing the pain points of the user. Now such kind of century old problems we can see, and we can find around us, surrounding us. Still these problems are being unsolved, though we are having our own masters and PhD students. Even though these problems are being unsolved, because we are not understanding their pain points, we are not empathizing with them, we are just sympathizing with the people. When you sympathize with the people, you are not solving their problem. But when you feel that pain inside your heart, inside your mind, when you feel the same pain, you will go and solve their problem. So you can't solve this problem until you carry these 42 lbs of matka on your head, and just walk for a 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or half a kilometer, right? So this 42 lb is around what, 18 to 19 kg. Every day this 18 to 19 kg weight they carry on their head, and walk for 5 kilometers, or 10, 15 minutes. So without carrying this matka on your head, you can't realize that pain, and you will not solve the problem, right? So many of the times observation will not only suffice. You need to go into their shoes, enter into their shoes, and understand their feel their pain by immersion into their lifestyle, immersion into their activities, and talking to them, right? Interacting with them. So someone from I'm not sure, someone from some other planet, maybe Mars, maybe some other planet, she came to our Mother Earth, and she realized that the pain points of the Indian and African women. So she lived with them in India and Africa for a couple of months, understanding their problem, doing these all activities like this, and realized the pain and came up with this water wheel. Now looking at this solution, we think that, oh, this is very simple, but how she conceptualized this water wheel is something we need to understand, right? And which is the entire process which we neglect or overlooked, and that's why we can't come up with the innovations like this, simple innovation like this, right? So which is where you need to observe, immerse yourself into the life of or behaviors of the people, your user and customer, and interact with them, engage with them uh, through the question answers, to understand their pain point and to define the right problem statement. So innovation needs to take away our pain, take away the user's pain, right? So now to come up with the innovation, you will require the creative idea. So have you ever wondered why some people are creative and some are not? Why some ideas are successful and many are failed? Is there any way or thinking or method? So yes, this design thinking, creative and critical thinking methodologies are available. Out of box thinking methods and tools are available to become more and more creative. But many of us think that creativity is gifted to few and everyone cannot be creative. This is the biggest myth that we have. Albert Einstein says that I am neither clever nor specially gifted. I am only very, very, very curious. If you can't become curious, you can't become creative. So creativity always follow the curiosity. So if you want to become creative, you need to become curious. You need to always ask questions. Why and why not? Right? Why this is happening? Why not this can be done? Right? When you ask many questions, when you become more and more curious, right, you become more and more creative. So creativity is not gifted one. It is innate talent all of us have. Right? Now we are talking little bit on critical and creative thinking. So and the ideation conceptualization part of design thinking. So creativity is not gifted one. It is innate talent all of us have. We all born with the creative talent. But due to our education system, society, and many of the environmental thing, we become less creative as we grow up. So it can be nurtured. Creativity, innovativeness always can be learned, nurtured, and developed with the continuous practice. When you use tools and techniques and solve some of the creative and critical puzzles, right, you become more and more creative. So knowledge and information are basis of the creativity. Many of the times we wondered that, oh, this is the miracle, this is the most creative idea, these people are more creative, or this is the eureka moment. But it is not eureka moment. We you all know about the benzene structure, right? Who invented that? August Kekule. So when Kekule came up with the benzene structure, which is a hexagon structure, he he has seen the dream of snake biting its own tail, right? उसको वो सपना आया कि सांप जो है अपने खुद को निगल रहा है. And in the morning he announced the benzene structure by hexagon, like it's a spiral structure, and everyone think that, oh, this is the eureka moment for Kekule. But it was not eureka moment. He was immersed into that knowledge and information for the months. He was trying to find out that structure, and suddenly he came up with the creative idea. So you can come up with the creative idea or innovative idea for particular domain, particular field, if you have the knowledge and information that of that field. So knowledge and information are the basis of the creativity, right? If you don't have knowledge of particular field of the farming, you can't come up with the innovative idea for the farmers, or Now there are two types of thinking that we talked about in general. So first is the vertical thinking, right? Vertical thinking, logical thinking, step by step, analytical, linear, convergent thinking. We are most logical, vertical, analytical thinker, right? We always come up with the logic and analyze the problem and come up with the solution step by step, right? So it is a vertical thinking. The second is more creative thinking, which is horizontal thinking, which we call a lateral thinking, out of the box thinking, or divergent thinking, right? So both is required, and which is why divergent convergent. So vertical is the convergent thinking, creative is a divergent thinking, right? So we require both of the thinking to come up with the innovative idea.
Hello. Just wait for a minute. It's a technical issue, I think. Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello.
You are in. Yes, sir. You are in now.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So from where I was out of the
Sir, that
just
vertical thinking, you
okay,
we are talking about vertical thinking.
yeah. Okay, just a minute. So is there my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So we were talking about the vertical and horizontal thinking. So there are two types of thinking: vertical thinking, which is logical, analytical, linear, and conversion, and second is the creative thinking, lateral, out of box thinking, divergent thinking. And that is where design thinking integrate both of the thinking, vertical as well as creative, vertical as well as horizontal thinking.
Participants, please kindly wait. He will be coming in within a minute.
Okay. Am I back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry for the internet. I think I was facing some connectivity issue. Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me just again share the screen. And I think we have how much? 10-15 minutes left, sir?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
have another 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So let me quickly again. Okay, so I was talking about the critical and creative thinking, vertical and horizontal thinking, and both is required uh, for. I hope I am audible, sir. Is visible? The screen is
Yes,
visible
sir.
to me.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. So for innovation, both creative and critical thinking is required, and design thinking integrates both of them, right? Divergent and convergent, critical and creative thinking, and that is where using design thinking, process, tools, and technique, we always get the innovation. So in critical thinking, what we do is normally when we use critical thinking, analytical thinking, from problem we are directly jumping onto the solution, mainly by emphasizing on analysis and logical argument, and we come up with one or two answer. And we do this all because of our formal education, because we taught, we learned this way, right? That for question there would be only one or two right answers, right? But in creative thinking, we explore many possibilities, we explore new ideas, we generate many possibilities and look for many answers, right? So when we use creative thinking, we come up with many answers, we generate many ideas, and we focus on quantity first, then the quality. First we focus on quantity, come up with many ideas, generating many ideas, and then we go for converging, combining, refining those ideas, and focus on the quality. So which is where we use left and right side of the brain. So how this, if we go little bit in a psychology and uh, neuroscience, then this creativity and critical thinking works with our left brain and right brain. So critical thinking, logical thinking, analytical thinking always works with our left brain. When we think from the when we think critically and logically, our left brain stimulates, right? So which is left brain is about logical, verbal, digital, symbolic, order, math, rational, linear, systematic, analytical thinking, right? And when we use creative thinking, when we think like about the ideas, art, randomness, bigger picture, music, emotion, imaginations, colors, creativity, analogy, fun. When we have all these things, our right brain stimulates. So when we use creative thinking, our right brain stimulates. When we use critical thinking, analytical thinking, our left side of the brain stimulates. For innovation and for we say that the genius people use their left and right brain simultaneously, right? हम बोलते हैं कि इनके chemical लोचा होता है मगज में, right? So they use left and right brain simultaneously. So when we use design thinking and ideation tools and technique, our left and right side of the brain stimulates simultaneously, and which is where we come up with the innovative idea. So there are methods, there are tools and technique when we use this kind of methods, right? Convergent, divergent methodologies, our left and right brain simultaneously, continuously works, and through that we can come up with the creative genius ideas, right? So using our creativity, we need to come up with the many ideas, right? So when you use the creativity, divergent part of your ideation process, you come up with the many ideas, bigger, big, small, good, bad, all kind of ideas you come up with. Then you convert those ideas into the innovation by applying constraint, boundary conditions, logic, analyze those ideas, and weighing that ideas against many of the constraint, right? So from the quantity, you then turned out to be into the qualitative idea, and from many ideas you come up with the final solution, which is we call as the innovation. But that innovation needs to be impactful, needs to be useful, marketable, commercial. This is the difference between creativity and innovation. creativity can be abstract, right? It may or may not have the purpose. Your idea can be any kind of idea, but when you convert that creative ideas or ideas into the innovation, innovation needs to be real, concrete, purposeful, impactful, useful, marketable, commercial. And that is where we always say that impact can be measured into like return on investment, monetary benefit, social impact, self-satisfaction also, right? Radical changes which are happening into the industry, particular industry or society and community. So that impact can be measured in many ways, but that impact needs to be there. So whenever you want to consider your idea as an innovation, you need to measure that impact and create that impact, right? And which is where we always say that innovation is about creating a novel idea, new idea, of a novel combination of existing ideas. Now, what is this? Why we define innovation in that way? If you take any example that you believe is an innovation, it would be the new idea for the people, for the market, and will be the novel combination of existing idea. Let's say mobile phone. Before smartphone came, right? Mobile technology was there, internet was there. Why we call it smartphone? Because it integrates many of the existing ideas or existing solution. It integrates camera, internet, uh, watch, calendar, so many other things. So to solve particular kind of problems or solve such kind of situation, they have combined existing ideas, but those existing ideas are from different domain. So when you combine different domain ideas, different domain things into the novel combination for solving any problem, for solving your problem, it will become the innovation, right? So, but one condition is that you need to combine different domain ideas. If I want to solve agricultural problem and I only combine agriculture technology ideas or existing artifacts, right, existing ideas from the agriculture, it would be common problem, it would be common solution, general solution. But to solve agriculture problem, if I integrate solutions from the, let's say, from the food business, let's say from the hospital management, or let's say from the manufacturing industry, or whatever it is, right, it will be a novel combination and it will be a new idea for the people, then it will become the innovation. Let's say let's talk about Uber as the example. We consider Uber as an innovative idea. What is it? Uber is a novel combination of existing idea. Before Uber, taxi service, travel service was there, banking service was there, computer IT or whatever, your application website application was there. They have combined these three domain, travel services, banking, and IT, into one idea, novel combination, solving some problems, and it became innovation, right? So whatever solutions you find innovation into the market, or you consider innovation as an innovation into the market, it would be a novel combination of existing idea, but that existing ideas will be combined from the different domain, and which is where we use divergent and lateral thinking, right? So divergent thinking is thinking many of the solutions in with the different perspective for particular problem, and lateral thinking is solving the problem, looking at the problem from the different perspective, from completely a new perspective, right? And when we talk about uh, conceptualization, product development, prototyping, we always need to depend on or consider various constraints. So design and innovation depends largely on the constraints. So when you come up with the many ideas using your divergent thinking, when you want to combine, when you want to converge those ideas into the final concept, you want to consider many of the constraints. So this constraint can be cost, budget, time, quality, technology, efficiency, usability, performance, ethics, environment, material, logistic. Many of the constraints will be there. You might have come up with the great idea, but cost is not there, budget is not there, so cost will be the constraint. Time may be the constraint, performance, usability, any of the constraint will be there. So you need to consider all these constraints of your domain. These are a couple of I have just listed down. There are many constraints based on your problem and your project. So what happens next then? Once you come up with the idea, once we have the idea or concept, so thinking, coming up with the idea is only the 10% of the story. 90% is making it happen. 90% is the implementation, where innovator or entrepreneur role is very much important. And that is why we say that 80% of the academic projects are being thrown into the scrap, because we are just thinking about the solution. We are not making it happen. We are not implementing it. Implementation is the hardest part of the innovation, right? And many of the innovators, many of the startups fail during that implementation stage because they are not persistently doing it. They are not, they are having that fear of failure, not learning from the failure, and they drop their ideas, right? So thinking is the 10%, making it happen is 90% of the story, which is where all the innovators and entrepreneurs needs to put their hard work and effort. So which is where we talked about this uh, prototyping thing, where design is not just what it looks like and feels like, but design is how it works, right? Steve Jobs said. So by saying that, he is pointing out on the prototyping thing. So without prototyping, we can't launch our idea. We can't come up with the solutions without prototyping and testing. And that is where we always say that prototype will help you to fail fast, fail safe, and fail cheaply, right? And we always say that failed experiments are better than the failed business. So you have the concept, you have the idea, you work on that idea for the 6 months, and after you launch your business, after that 6 months of hard work, resources, and money involved, and if you fail, it is better than failing 6 times every month by 6 prototyping, right? So failed experiments are always better than the failed business, right? You can save a lot of money, time, resources, and many a time a brand name of your company, right? So I have talked about design thinking and all the steps in a brief. Now let's little bit talk about entrepreneurship, where design thinking is very much important. Design thinking and innovation is important. But before we, I'll just take now 5 minutes more. But before we understand, the integration of design thinking into entrepreneurship, we first need to understand what is startup. Because many of the time students will come to you and they say that, sir, I have this idea and I want to start my own startup. Now whether this is the business idea, traditional business, or an entrepreneurial idea, startup idea, or startup venture, you have to define that to give them a startup funding from the government, right? So government has decided, I mean, defined that in a particular way. So what is the difference between traditional business, launching your own business versus starting up? So when a chai wala, a coffee maker, starts their own tea stall or hawker place outside your college, right? What they are doing is they are making the tea or coffee as other thousands of tea makers are making. They might have taken a risk of investing 5 lakh, 10 lakh or 50 lakh rupees into that particular place. But what they are not doing is they are not solving any problem. They are doing the same thing as other thousands of tea makers in the city or in the state are doing, and they are not creating any value or new experience for the customer. 1%, 0.1% might do that, but not everyone. So we call it a venturing out, a business venture, right? उसने नया venture start किया, business start किया. This is not called a startup. But when companies like Starbucks, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, or Ola, Uber, Zomato, Swiggy, so when they come into the market, what they do is they identify particular problem or business opportunity. They use the management principle, innovations, and they standardize their product and service. And what they do is they create a completely new market value, entirely a new experience for the customer. Then we say that these are the startups or these are the entrepreneurial venture. Startup is a temporary thing, and that's where Startup India portal also mentioned that startup, for applying for the startup, your company needs to be a 10 years, less than 10 years, right, or younger than the 10 years. So startup is a temporary formation. After certain period, certain stability aspect, certain revenue, you become a company, right? So what is the underlying principle or underlying difference between business venture and entrepreneurial venture is that entrepreneur or startup always solves the problem. So they first identify the problem or a market opportunity, they solve that problem using innovation, and they add the value to that particular domain, right, whom we call an entrepreneur. So when someone's identify the problem, solve that problem, coming up with the innovation, novel idea, new idea, and add the value, have the value proposition into their idea, right, then we call it as a startup entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship is all about converting creative ideas which solves the unmet real needs of the user through the innovation using feasible technology and viable business model. So again, here design thinking definition will be, you can see design thinking definition over here. So also when you search for entrepreneurship on the internet, you can find many of the definition, but this is what how we understand entrepreneurship is. So for coming up with the entrepreneurial idea, innovation, right, what you require is a innovative idea, creative idea. Even if you don't have an innovative idea and still you want to start your own startup, what you can do is you can observe surrounding market, research into the market, and identify the needs of the people, pain points of the people, problems, identify the problems, come up with the creative idea, convert that creative idea into an innovation which we call a product. So let's say product, service, systems, or anything. You will have, or you will need a competent team, right, a strong team, and a perfect execution strategy. So these are the four fundamental requirements for starting your own startup: a creative idea, innovative product, perfect strong team, competent team, and uh, execution strategy. Along with these four aspects, you will also need to validate these three pillars of the startup, which is technology, people. So people is your inside people as well as your stakeholders, your user and customer. So you need to validate them also, people's desirability, and business processes and operations, right? So along with these four aspects and three pillars, along with these four aspects, you also need to validate these three pillars on the paper. It becomes your business model to us. So once you have that business model, you are good to go. And once you validate that business model on paper with the real users, customer, and in real environment, you are good to go and launch your product or service into the market as a startup. So for that, we normally use combination of design thinking, lean startup, and agile methodology. I will not go into very detail, but these three methodology we are using to validate the startups at very early stage, and we use these methodologies in a combination, right? And for that, for identifying a problem, you need to just observe your surrounding, identify the opportunity, and convert your problem as an opportunity, or identify the problem into the market opportunity. For that, we require the collaboration, because collaboration is the key. And for one person, most of the problems are too complex to be solved single-handedly, and that's why you require multiple perspective, skill, discipline, experience, knowledge people to solve the complex problem, right? And this is how your innovators and entrepreneur journey would look like. It is always ups and down, it is always some success, sometimes failure. But what happened during this roller coaster ride is we always enjoy. We screamed out, but we enjoy the ride. So we always say our students that, you enjoy the process. Don't worry about the final outcome. If you enjoy the process, if you learn during that process, your final outcome would be a great. Even if you have ups and downs, success and failure, you will learn out of that and you will enjoy the journey, right? So many of the time, startups and entrepreneurs are very worrying about the final outcome, कि हम success होंगे नहीं होंगे, market में चले कि नहीं. But if you enjoy the process, if you learn out of that process, right, the journey would be very much enlightening. So as an entrepreneur, our plan is, our goal is like something like that. In 1 year, in 2 year, we will reach here, right? Our KPIs are set and everything is that. But in reality, we need to be prepared with this reality that it will be ups and down. It will be, a valley of death also for the startups. Many of the time we are facing many of the difficulties. But if we are ready to accept all these challenges and overcome these challenges, we will reach to our goal at the end of the day. So enterprise may fail, but as an entrepreneur, as a innovator, you don't fail if you develop mindset, attitude, and skill. So you will require to develop that particular mindset, attitude, and skill as an entrepreneur, right? Your one or two startup idea may fail, but as an entrepreneur, you don't fail if you have that mindset, attitude, and skill. Now, how we develop this mindset, attitude, and skill is based on is process, tools, and techniques continuously, practicing them, right? Practicing and learning from those failures. Also, we can learn from the success stories of the entrepreneurs as well as from the good books. We can read good book and references, and we can develop our mindset, attitude, and skill. But it is over the practice. It comes with the practice. So at the end, I would like to conclude that design thinking is a human-centered, intuitive, creative, non-linear, collaborative, iterative, and experimental process. And it is a contextual, not a template-based approach. Right. So with that note, I would conclude my session over here. And yeah, this is my credential if you would like to connect. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope that I have tried my best to explain the whole design thinking approach, which we normally take 4 to 5 days, entire day to explain to faculty member or students through our hands-on workshop. But I have tried my best in this 1.5 hours to explain this in a nutshell. So I hope that you have understood a bit, and yeah, we are open to question answers if any.
Thank you so much, sir. Such a wonderful session. Participants, if you have any questions, please kindly ask our person.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Deepak from Department of BCom BPS. The session was
Yes.
really eye-opener for us, sir. I have one small question, sir. That is, you are displaying some slides for us relating to left and right brain coordination, sir. So I think
Yes.
if you suggest us some techniques, that will be helpful for us and also molding the students. So we can also improve their creativity. So can you suggest some technique for that?
Technique for
Left and right brain coordination.
development of right and left brain thinking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are many tools available, sir. There are many like puzzles and exercises available on the internet. If you just write down like creative thinking exercise, or if you just write down out of the box thinking exercise, or if you just say right and left brain enhancing techniques, you will find many of the techniques like 30 circle test is there. uh, there are some so there is also one exercise called what is called left and right brain something, where there is a word written, and every word has different color. So if it is written like orange, right, the color will be black. So you don't need to say word, but you need to say the color, right? So that is how you develop your brain. That is how your brain will be developed. Because in traditionally, what our brain think or how it trained is it directly read the word. It is not first saying the color, right? So that is how we developed our left and right brain in a synchronous manner using those techniques. If I'll find out the list of the techniques, I'll share with the organizers, so the organizer can share with all of you. But of course, on Google, there are many techniques available, Deepak sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
If it would be like workshop, I can have some of the techniques and we can have some of hands-on activities. But due to the time constraint, I couldn't include all those techniques. But there are many techniques. for ideation only, for coming up with the creative idea only, there are 300, 400 techniques available, right? So there are various tools and techniques which are available for ideation, for creativity and innovation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, good afternoon. I'm Aarti from
Hi.
Ramakrishna College, Department of International Business. So the session was really very wonderful, sir. So I have a question for you. So can we inculcate design thinking in our curriculum? And to which stream will it be useful when we inculcate in our curriculum?
Yeah. So of course, ma'am, Aarti ma'am, you can inculcate design thinking in your curriculum, and sooner or later it will be included. I mean, see, if you see, AICT has included, design thinking, and study has included already into the NEP 2020. Many of the schools are now being, developed their curriculum based on design thinking, creativity, innovation aspect. In CBSE 11th standard, right? So 11th standard CBSE, they have made it compulsory. I am taking design thinking for many of the universities like Symbiosis here in Ganpat University, Nirma. GTU, as I mentioned yesterday, GTU has included design thinking from the third semester onwards. So third, fourth, fifth, sixth semester, we have a 3 credit courses. So total 12 credit course of design thinking has been included. And final year project, of course, you need to based on the design thinking methodology. So you can always integrate or inculcate design thinking in your curriculum. What I suggest based on my experience is, if you can include into the curriculum as a compulsory subject, it would be a great thing, because everyone will learn, and out of that you can screen out a better students and startup. Second thing, of course, after inclusion of the design thinking, I mean, you can include it in any branch, any discipline. It is not that for marketing it will be better, or accounting it will be better, or engineering it will be better. Design thinking can be applicable to every field, right? You just need to contextualize something. So wherever I developed the curriculum for design thinking, we first ask the contextual needs of the university and of the students and faculty members. So you just need to contextualize something. The process and other things will remain same, but you need to contextualize the subject for your branch, for your university, or like it also needs to align with your vision and roadmap, right? So yeah, of course you can include.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
People are including design thinking and innovation for 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credit. So till 2 and 3 credit is better, because you have then 30, 45 hours for the semester, which is enough to introduce design thinking for the students, to the students.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Participants, is there any questions that you can post now? The session is open for questions. Participants can ask questions. Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, yes, sir. So the session was very wonderful, sir. I believe the participants are very clear, and most of them have given positive feedbacks. They're very happy for listening to the presentation, sir. So thank you very much, sir. And on behalf of the organizing team, the principal and all the faculty members, we thank you very much for giving this wonderful session, sir. Yesterday, we've spent almost 2 hours, and today, so I know it is very hard to keep continuously talk for 2 hours and still answer the questions. So thank you very much, deep from the heart, sir. And
Thank you very much, Dr. Nithilan sir. And
you.
it is out of my passion that I can speak for hours and hours for design thinking and innovation. So I'm always ready and open to discussions and interactions with the faculty members and students. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and
Thank
hope
you,
to
sir.
see you
And
soon in any particular way. Yeah.
yes, and so we would like to invite you to our college. We'll plan for that occasion, sir. So we would like to invite you for a college so that we could have a session face-to-face session
Sure,
so
sir,
that
sure.
could-
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to visit your college if this
Yes.
pandemic situations will become
Yes, sir,
normal.
yes, sir.
I mean, after some times, but yeah, of course, we'll do some hands-on and physical sessions also. It would be
Definitely,
great.
yes. Yes.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and please take care. Be healthy. Be happy. Bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye, sir. Thank you. I request the participants to join for the afternoon session sharp at 2:15. The second session in the afternoon would start at 2:15. I request everyone to join. Thank you all.